Hi, Ohio. Welcome, everybody. We've got a nice full house, so I'm going to get ready to kick us off and get started here. We are recording. For those of you that just jumped on, let us see your name, location, business, where you're from in the chat. But we're going to be talking today about unveiling a new era of skin regeneration. I am so excited to introduce our newest customization. It is ExoFirm. And if it sounds familiar to you, it should, because Firm is one of our most popular customizations, and we have updated it and taken it to a whole new level. We're excited to share that with you today. As we get started, I want to first introduce you to not only myself, but also our special guest today. My name is Savannah Barrett. I am the Senior Director of Customer Enablement and Sales Development. What that essentially means is I head up the clinical education team, and I also support with customer experience on the back end, making sure that you guys have all the resources, tools, app content, classes, everything you could need to feel successful in what you're offering with Glo2Facial. And I've been with Glo2Facial now for about 3 years. And I'm so excited to have our guest that's joining us today because from day one of having this device, you've been such a champion and done such beautiful work with this wonderful experience and treatment. But please, if you are able to, drop some hearts and some applause in the chat. Welcome to Dr. Gervaise Gerstner from Gerstner Dermatology.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy and honored to be here.
We are glad to have you. And for those of you that maybe don't know her, I don't know who wouldn't know her. I'm sure most of you are already following her on social media. If you're not, give her a follow. She posts fantastic content. But what I love the most about your work, Dr. Gerstner, and why we really wanted you on here for this webinar in particular is she is so bespoke and curated in every single approach that she takes for every single customer. And she is very humble and won't tell you this, but this is why the millionaires, the billionaires, the celebrities come to her is nothing is one size fits all. She really works like the true heart of a provider, which is I think we all see ourselves as bathroom chemists, right? And we really want to curate something that is special and unique that drives the outcomes our patients are looking for. And so we're going to tap into your expertise today, Dr. Gerstner. We're so glad to have you on.
Delighted. Thank you. Thank you, Savannah, for having me. And,
Well,
and thank you everyone
before
for joining.
Yes, I saw lots of love in the chat, so I know they're happy to see you. You're one of our favorite people to talk to. And before we get into some of the Q&A that we have for you, I want us to talk a little bit about ExoFirm. For a lot of you, this might be the very first time you're learning or hearing anything about it, and it's such an exciting product. And one that I was fortunate to be deeply involved with from start to finish as they were curating this and working on it in the lab and seeing it come to market. But many of you are familiar with our Firm customization. It's the one with 24 karat gold. It's the one that I always say is the wearable Instagram filter because your skin just looks so flawless and luminous and red carpet ready right after. And we've added exosomes to this to really take it to the next level. And as we breach further into this conversation about regenerative skin health and how Glo2Facial is leading the charge with that story, ExoFirm is such a big part of that because this is now a much more advanced customization, and it is specifically designed to not only prevent but reduce signs of early aging. And we're supporting skin in a regenerative way. So we're preventing loss of collagen, we're preventing loss of moisture in the skin, and we're doing that with plant-based exosomes. So we're able to not only enhance that collagen hyaluronic portfolio, but we're also improving elasticity, the hydration components of the skin. And so this is really an ideal customization for anyone wanting to prevent or address signs of aging. That antioxidant protection is so crucial in defending against the free radical damage, which we know can accelerate fine lines and wrinkles. One thing that I know, Dr. Gerstner, you've said you notice a lot is the improvement in texture, right? They just have that increase in look of suppleness and lift in the skin. It really smooths any rough texture and supports the natural processes of collagen production. But where I really see it come to life is with dull skin. I've always said that Firm is like a wearable Instagram filter, but the exosome in here really takes it to another level. There is such a brightening that comes with the complexion now that I used to only see in our Brighton customization. And so I think to not only have that brighter appearance, but also the smoother and plumper appearance is really what makes ExoFirm stand out as a go-to treatment in our lineup of personalized options. But let's talk a little bit more about this product and how you can not only picture it in your practice, but what your customers are going to see as well. And we show clinical significance in the reduction of fine lines and wrinkles. And I know we're used to seeing percentages like 90 and 100%, but those are usually client perception studies. And this is an actual Visia study where we saw 10% reduction in actual superficial, or what we like to call discrete wrinkles. And so when customers come in and they tell you, I just feel like my skin looks really tired all the time. What they're usually describing is that like discrete type of wrinkling, or what I would call really crepey skin, or really fine or thin skin that tends to be a big sign of aging to us. And this addresses that type of concern specifically. And I love in this before and after, you can immediately see not only does she get some great lift, I see that contouring around the cheekbone and the mid face area, but it's that resilience and that texture. And that's what regenerative skin health is all about. It's looking just like yourself, but like you had the best night's sleep of your life, still feeling like yourself in your own skin in a rejuvenated way. So, how are we doing that with ExoFirm? Let's talk about the ingredients. The oxypod is where you're going to be seeing the exosomes be included. So we said they're plant-based, and if any of you are familiar with the exosome landscape, or really the regenerative landscape, you have probably heard of Centella asiatica, or in this format, we're calling it SICA, plant-based exosomes is another term for it. But Centella asiatica is one of the most researched, well-known, reputable products for wound and skin repair. It's one of the number one herbal medicines used for skin repair. And it is a very active compound that not only can soothe redness, but it encourages collagen production at the same time. And that makes this fit in beautifully with anything else that you're offering to your patients, because not only are we calming that inflammation, repairing skin barrier, but it really helps to boost the hydration quality in the skin. And what's special about that is we want to keep that water content very high because it creates a better environment for everything to reproduce. Now, we've always had the 24 karat gold and the copper peptides, but it's so important for us to remember why these are in here. It's not just because the gold adds the luxury, which I'm all about. I like a luxury experience. But it really does have valuable properties. And so the 24 karat gold on a superficial scale enhances the radiance in the skin. This actually really is what adds an instant luminosity, and why I know Dr. Gerstner uses it this way. I use it this way, but it's like your red carpet facial. This is what you do on brides, what you do on celebrities. This is what you do right before events. It gives that instant glow, even more so than you get just with the oxygenation process. Then on top of that, when you add the carnosine, you're getting anti-inflammatory benefits, you're getting antioxidant support. But the most important thing that it's doing is preventing what we like to call the sugar sag or glycation, if you're familiar with that term, which is that degrading process of our skin proteins, the collagen and the elastin. And so the carnosine is very valuable for not only restoring the skin, but creating an optimal environment for these tissues. And then when you couple that with the copper, copper is a well-known trace mineral that is used in multiple essential skin processes, not only for collagen elastin, but for strength and elasticity, that snapback, that thing that gives us a lot of youthfulness again in the mid-face or the thinner, more collagen dependent areas of the skin for youthfulness. And on top of that, we're still getting antioxidant support. So it's a very well-rounded hero portfolio of ingredients with the Oxypod. When we transition to look at the serum, there's a whole host of other standout ingredients. And this is what I really love about Glo2Facial is they're so thoughtful in the way they blend and create synergistic approaches to every single step of the service. So not only do you have your Oxypod, but when you couple that with the serum, we're blending in a very popular tetrapeptide, extremely well researched, highly potent, fantastic outcomes. If you guys are familiar with palmitoyl tetrapeptide 7, you've seen it around. It's got a lot of clinical nicknames, if you will. But what this is essentially meant to do is be a biomimetic peptide, which literally means it is mimicking the biology of our skin. So it naturally supports the conversation, if you will, of our skin to increase production of collagen, elastin, and hyaluronic acid. All those essential skin proteins that give us that youthfulness and volume in the skin. Now, on top of that, we've got the hyaluronic acid, which is, of course, a known hydrating property. But the glycogen is what I love in here because it works as a humectant. And if you've ever done this serum, you know after you've done the ultrasound step, they are looking very snatch, very plump, very dewy, very youthful. And that visual appearance is thanks to the glycogen. It not only boosts hyaluronic synthesis, like a little mini filler experience, but it helps with that skin vitality. So you get the overall glow, the resilience through that humectant quality because it's pulling the water into the skin and really binding it there. So you get that plumpness. I would also be remiss if I did not mention my favorite ingredient, which is the polyglucuronic acid. And if you are a little bathroom chemist like me and you love reading labels, this is one you're probably familiar with. It's very up and coming, especially in K-beauty. This is in just about everything. And it's because it's so nourishing and it is specifically designed to prevent transepidermal water loss. So we are teaching the skin to maintain its natural and more efficient levels of moisture. Because as we age, we lose our ability to maintain that moisture. All of our collagen elastin gets a little dry rotted, for lack of a better word, and you can lose the structural integrity of the skin. And so this polyglucuronic acid helps to, again, create the supportive environment that's needed for youthful and rejuvenated skin. With that said, the real reason we have Dr. Gerstner on here is we want her opinion on why this is so fantastic. And you're probably thinking, if you've heard of exosomes before, you're like, yeah, but it all comes down to the delivery. And you are correct. There are a lot of exosomes out there, but how do we know that they're really effective? So I'm going to give you my take on it, and then we'll transition here in just a second to Dr. Gerstner and get her viewpoint. But what makes exfoliation so ideal for the delivery of something very fragile like an exosome is that most exosome products will degrade before they even reach the skin. So typically they're delivered in a liquid form like a serum or a cream. You'll see them in kind of like a parts per million because you have to put so much in there to make sure that something is survivable upon delivery. But exosomes go through a hydrolytic breakdown, which means that water has the ability to degrade its natural molecular structure. And when it loses the structural integrity, it's difficult for it to interact with skin cells in the way that it needs to. So how do we compensate for that? In the ExoFirm product, we've solved this because we are delivering the exosomes with a dry state storage. So the Cica exosomes are actually preserved in the Oxypod until the moment of treatment. So when it comes in contact with the primer gel, it activates, and you have that perfect window of about 5 minutes, which is just long enough for us to facilitate absorption into the skin cells, but it is not long enough to allow for that hydrolytic breakdown to occur. And so when you have this, that exfoliation rich environment or that oxygen rich environment that comes from exfoliation, we're able to bring all of this oxygen rich blood up to the surface of the skin. That is able to come in contact with all these structurally intact exosomes that are perfectly ready to be delivered into skin cells that are primed to receive them. And so what you'll see as we look at the new direction of clinical treatment is it's not anymore just about percentage or pH. It's about total blends. It's about the environment. It's about the delivery system. And Glo2Facial is so regenerative because it taps into every single part of the skin health process to give those beautiful outcomes. So it's enough for me. I've gotten on my platform about exosomes. I love them and I love the results, but I will tease you guys with a little bit of excitement. For those of you that stay on, we will have a discount for you guys at the end. Thank you, Dr. Gerstner. She was like, look, we got to give somebody a deal on this. Everybody is going to want to try it after we've talked about it. So we will have a special code for all of you that have attended to get some complimentary ExoFirm in your practices. So stay with us. But as we transition from that, I want to bring it back to you, Dr. Gerstner. And again, say thank you for having you on. Before I dive into the questions, I wanted to give you a chance to say a deeper hello to the audience. We'd love to know a little bit more just about your background, where you're located, the types of patients that you're seeing, and just your overall experience with Glo2Facial since you brought it on.
Oh, thank you, Savannah, and thank you, Glo2, for having me. Well, my name is Dr. Gervaise Gerstner, and we're located right here in my office on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, where I have been a dermatologist for 25 years. I went to med school in the city, and then I started my practice in the city. And I see all sorts of patients from newborns to 95-year-olds and to have a cosmetic practice, but also a medical practice and see all sorts of people as they've grown older. I've had patients that I've treated as acne and then I get them ready for weddings and now I take care of their babies. So I am a family dermatologist and even more so after COVID. I think I really became kind of a special medical concierge dermatologist, taking care of all sorts of things. But one of the things I really do enjoy doing is helping people with their skin texture, as well as helping them with getting ready for an event, getting ready for a wedding, but also keeping their skin healthy for the long term. So short term, getting them ready for their event, but then coaxing them in on protecting their skin forever, whether it be from skin cancer or repairing anything that's going on with their skin and their microbiome.
Yeah, and there's just such a vast approach you can take. And I love that you say that. You're really creating kind of a storytelling with every patient that you see. And you've been practicing cosmetic derm for a number of years now. You've seen, no doubt, a ton of innovation come through. But what made you start to pay attention more seriously to exosomes as a tool when it came into the conversation?
Well, it's a tool that can see instant results, but also doesn't have much downtime. So using them isn't as abrasive, let's say as a retinol. And I love retinol, don't get me wrong, but you kind of have to coax patients into using it. You have to start slow. Whereas, and you get wonderful results if you can get that healthy balance of, but with exosomes, anyone can use them. It's good for 18-year-old skin that has acne scars that I'm trying to repair, or if it's for myself, 52-year-old skin that has old sun damage and fine lines and skin texture. It's really exosomes are instant, but they're also long-term and every skin type can use an exosome.
Well, it's so great that you say that because I even see questions already coming in about, can I use it for this? Can I use it for that?
Yeah.
Rosacea, acne, and yes, you can.
Absolutely.
It's such a great
That's the
tool.
wonderful thing that we haven't had many ingredients that can do that. You know, you always have to, there's disclaimer, oh, you can't use that if you're too sensitive or if you're going to get redness. But this one's been a home run for everybody.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is we've seen so many years spent focusing on correcting damage, but the shift for me with exosomes, regenerative medicine, whatever you want to kind of call it in that space, is that people are now more interested in improving the quality and behavior of the skin and not necessarily just do the strongest thing possible to me and I'll deal with whatever pain because I just want an outcome. Are you seeing that shift too with what they're asking for?
Absolutely. And I try to, it's the best way I describe it is I don't do facelifts. I don't do procedures like that. But let's say they want to do that. A good, fabulous facelift maybe lasts 10 years, 12 years. And if we're all living to be 100, then that's potentially multiple facelifts in one's life. What I try to have them do is just have pretty texture. So even if you're not doing a facelift, your skin texture looks pretty. And if you do go for a lift, you're cutting and redraping pretty skin. And what is pretty skin? What does that mean? And
Yeah.
it's the skin texture. You want the drapes to be clean. You want the fine lines, the pores, the scarring, the broken capillaries. You want to address all of that skin texture. And even on an identical twin, you can have different texture issues. One may have more brown spots, one may have more pores. But that's kind of my goal is to make sure we have glowing, smooth texture.
It is, and I think that's what people find really exciting is it's an opportunity to improve resilience, texture without all of that recovery. It's a lot more integrated into their
Right.
daily lifestyle.
Right. They're not going to have downtime.
Yeah.
Um,
I want to ask you this because it comes up a lot. For providers, especially that are on the call, maybe they're a little newer to exosomes or they've just heard a lot of conflicting information or
yeah.
opinions. How would you explain clinically what they do in the skin? What does an exosome do?
They're just messengers. They're just talking to the cells. You're talking to your own cells. They're telling your cells to let's produce some collagen. Let's produce some, but the telling the fibroblasts what to do. Decrease the inflammation in the skin. Ramp up the healing. They're just messengers. Exosome's just a fancy word for a skin messenger, telling your body what to do.
It's a perfect way to describe it. And I always like to say that exosomes are like the cell phone tower, right? It just gives you a really good connection on your conversation from cell to cell. It really helps to boost that quality. And
Absolutely.
I think what's also interesting about they're really signaling molecules essentially, right? And so they're supporting just
Exactly.
control. It's like a good therapist, it just helps you to communicate a little bit better. But I think you said it best is they're not replacing any procedures. You're not going to pick exosome over something necessarily. It's all about improving and enhancing what you're already doing to optimize the skin. Are there any procedures that you really like using in concert with exosome or other services that you are using Glo2Facial with?
Absolutely. Like my rotation typically is I rotate the patients for their texture through three different devices, usually the Tixel, the skin pen microneedling, and the Clear and Brilliant, which is like a 1440. Usually you use the 1440 wavelength, sometimes the 1927. All of these, I pair it with the ExoFacial because it preps the skin, but then also afterwards it heals the skin. Not that these are major downtime procedures, but they get it ready and then they maximize the results. So I tend to pair them together. Sometimes we'll just do the Glo2Facial on its own, but typically we're combining treatments in my office.
I love hearing that you do that because I'll get asked quite often, how do I know to choose Glo2Facial over X? And I think it's all about for us as providers really shifting our mindset to understand that a great provider is always trying to get to the same result, which is skin barrier repair,
Yeah,
anti-inflammatory, collagen elastin production, hyaluronic protection. We all want kind of the same qualities of skin health. But a great provider just has a number of tools to speak to the skin, and exosomes is one of
absolutely.
those. So you're not really ever picking Glo2Facial over something else. You're figuring out where it combines best for that patient
Absolutely.
and how they present. Is that how you would say you treat it?
Absolutely. An example would be we would start with the ExoFirm pod, get that skin ready, come in, do a pass with the Clear and Brilliant, then come in with the serum and the ultrasound. And then potentially we'd use a different serum with the massage and like a sheet mask that I bring in. So I kind of customize it to each face that I'm handling that day or dealing with that day. But I love it because that is my first step. That's prepping it. It's getting it ready. It's getting the exosomes in there, getting the communication started, and then we can pivot from there to whatever we're trying to achieve with either the microneedling or the Clear and Brilliant or some other type of laser device.
Well, and I see questions in the comments about, are you doing this same day? Are you doing this in a series? I
Same
usually tell
day,
people you do
same
all of it.
day,
Same day,
same day,
series.
same
Yeah.
day. And then if they want injectables that day, then at the end they'll go to a different
Injectables.
room to do their injectables. as well, if they need to, if they're not, doing it, if they really need to cram everything in.
Well, from a financial standpoint, it's extremely beneficial for a practice. You can increase ticket value very simply that way. But I think on top of it, it's such a benefit for our patients because they want to be able to get a great result and then still go out that night. And they can do a lot of things at one time
Exactly.
and really,
And
really stack the
exactly.
outcome.
You have that 24 karat gold in there that they're going to be glowing that day.
I love it.
So, yeah, their pocketbook has gotten a hit because they've spent, but they look feel glowy because a lot of times you leave and let's say you're red and a little bruised or swollen and you've just spent a lot of money. It's no fun. But if you're leaving and you look like a rock star and you can go on the red carpet at the Met, then you're happier. You're happier about that, the cost of all these procedures.
You always want to go home and know your husband's going to say, honey, you look so great, instead of, honey, what did you do? Because this is
Oh
a
yeah,
lot easier
like
to
exactly.
get.
Like when Harry met Sally, you want your girlfriends to say, "Well, I'll have what she's having." Who did you
Wow.
see today? So it's all
I'd
good.
love to know from you, Dr. Gerstner. You've tried all of our customizations. You love Firm. But when you tried ExoFirm for the first time, what did you observe? Like, what surprised you that was different about just the exosome addition in the customization?
Right, because usually when we're using kind of back to what I had mentioned about retinol, sometimes when we think when we're using this powerful ingredient, there's going to be a downtime or there's going to be something that's you're going to have to explain to the patient and say just it's worth the wait. But with ExoFirm, you have that instant glow, you have that instant powerful tool, but you're not having a downside that comes with that, and that's just totally surprising and shocking. So that was great. And it is similar to the Firm, but it just has the exosomes in there, so it's not replace it's that's why it's 1 plus 1 is not 2, it's 1 plus 1 is 10 in this case.
I love how you explain that. That to me is such an important distinction is it's not the 1 plus 1 is 2, 1 plus 1 is 10. The main feedback that I hear with this is that a lot of times with regenerative treatments, it can take a couple of weeks to appreciate the benefits from that, right? If you're doing microneedling or laser, it works, absolutely, but it can take some time to really build that. But I feel like with ExoFirm, it's such a great treatment to add into the mix and to really, I like to start people out with it to get them on the hook for regenerative treatments because they look extremely refreshed and revitalized right after the treatment. And I think it helps them to believe the exosome and the regenerative approach and be a lot more trusting and faithful to the rest of the overall process as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, with that
Agreed.
said, another thing I want to ask you from a dermatologist perspective is what do you think about, with it being plant-based cica or plant-based centella, what do you feel like the exosome delivery can offer that other types of regenerative ingredients don't offer? We've talked a lot about it really being calming to the skin. And I saw somebody talking about what about acne protocols? So, from a practical standpoint, who do you really like to incorporate this type of exosome ingredient with?
Well, great question. And I think when it comes to acne or it comes for anything in the skin, I think the plant-based exosomes help decrease inflammation. That's one of the important signaling things, and that we didn't really know about inflammation as much, or we didn't talk about it as much even a decade ago. Um, for example, we didn't even have nutrition class in med school in the 90s, and now we know that there are inflammatory foods, that there are sugar, dairy, and gluten are inflammatory. Now we know about the microbiome, that there are these inflammatory things on our skin. And so increasing inflammation leads to more thyroid disease, more skin disease, more lupus. Decreasing any inflammation in the skin is going to make your skin better. And plant-based exosomes do that. They signal to your skin, halt. This is the inflammation that you're getting either from the pollution, inflammation that you're getting from red wine, whatever it is. It's pausing that. It's stopping it. It's a stop clock for that. So that's what I think the plant-based exosomes are important is they really address inflammation, which is a new concept. It's in skincare and in healthcare in general.
It's the root essentially. And I love the way you articulate that because I think that is the foundation. The skin will never do anything if it's in a state of inflammation. It's like a fire
Right.
alarm. It just really can't hear anything else besides that inflammatory cascade. And so anytime we can quiet that, reduce it, shut it down, the skin works so much more effectively. We had a great question in the chat about some of the timing language of, I kind of give that timing of it's that perfect 5 minutes or so from activation from the dry state to where it absorbs. And people are asking, does the exosome stop working after that? And the answer is no. The exosome doesn't stop working. It's just that with exosome
It's the
delivery, we have,
delivery, right? No, it
yes,
continues, and but you're driving it in there. You have to
yeah,
do that exfoliation, and it's not like if I always tell patients when they'll go down to Bergdorf's and the Bergdorf's lady at the counter will be like, "Here's this collagen cream. You need this, honey. You're gonna need the collagen." And we hear that word collagen, and we're like, "Oh, I need collagen," but the molecule of collagen would be sitting on top of the skin. It can't get in there.
gigantic.
It's too big. So when it comes to the exosomes with that exopod state, we're getting off that dead skin. We are prepping the skin. We're getting it in there, and then we're getting it ready, and then they're in there, and then they're communicating, and they're ready, and then you can go on to the next steps. And the wonderful thing is, we do have these next steps. We have the next step with the ultrasound. We have the next step with the even with the massage. You can I'll put on some serums and put a sheet mask on and do the massage step. So you're having two steps after the exfoliation they're driving in these exosomes and they're still working in the skin. And you can even send them home with an exosome product, which I do. I have two exosome products that I send them home with, some ampules. I send them home with a jar of it. So they have take home exosomes as well. And so that's my thoughts.
Well, I'm so glad you shared it that way because you're right. The time that's finite is the delivery period of where it
Mhm.
stays stable on the surface, where there's all these environmental issues. And how do we get it past this thing that's designed to be a barrier and get it where it really works? And that's why that time there's a time frame there, just like with vitamin C, right? It starts to oxidize as soon as you open it. Just like when you break an ampule open, everything starts to degrade as soon as it is exposed to those environmental pieces. But once the exosome is in there, it's really doing the work for a long period after that. And just to go a little deeper on the exfoliation component, I think one of the things you do most successfully is that treatment stacking. You flood the skin from start to home care because I ask people all the time, when do you think the skin is most able to accept actives? It's when it's breathing and it's inhaling and we're starting that oxygenation process. And so right after exfoliation is the perfect time to introduce more of everything, more
Yeah.
exosome, more skincare, more at home, because you really see the results compound at that point.
Yeah, I tell them that within the next 24 hours, we have this window of opportunity. If we've made little holes in the skin with microneedling, we're going to flood the skin with this. If we've made little tiny microburns with the Clear and Brilliant, we're going to heal those burns. We've purposely damaged the skin a little bit in order to stimulate it. But the exosomes have done that first. They have, gotten us ready. They've gotten the signaling started, and then we go in with a, 1-2 punch with that procedure, and then they go home and flood the skin with even more. So it's been working like a dream.
You probably get this feedback a lot, and I hear it too. Of people will usually they love their skin right after, but sometimes they'll call me 2, 3, 4, 5 days after the treatment, and they're like, "My skin looks even better than it did when I first got it." And it's because you have that compounding cumulative reaction that you're getting from this cell communication and that youthful regeneration that we see in the skin. Okay, yes, the exosomes are just in the oxypod. That's a great question. And it's intentionally there because that's when the oxidation process starts. That's when we're able to get that absorption. I would love to know from you when you're looking at research or different products that have exosomes, what is something that indicates this is a good exosome to you? What kind of things do you look for?
Just stability. Obviously you want a company that has great clinical trials and good studies, and you want to look at the stability of the actual exosomes. And ExoFirm has that in spades.
I think that's a big one, and we hear that too of like, how do you know if it's really working? And sometimes it's just as simple as they look great afterwards. Their skin is really healthy and they can see it. And it feels very natural afterwards. And I think that's what makes this such an enjoyable experience for people, not just a clinical treatment as well. But are there certain skin concerns you've treated that you think have benefited the most from ExoFirm? Like, do you think maybe rosacea has a really dramatic outcome or aging? Is there anyone that you see really just does great with this every time?
I think everyone, but I think something that gives me a lot of pleasure is when I have, again, acne scars can be any age, but typically it is, I'm inheriting them at 23, 24, 25. They may have done elsewhere 3 or 4 courses of Accutane. Their acne is almost under control, but they have ice pick acne scars on their cheeks. And they're either getting ready for a wedding or their event, or they just hate their skin. They think the makeup sits in the craters. And this is men and women. This is not just, girls. And so I think using the ExoFirm to prep their skin and then do something for this scarring is just life changing. Their confidence comes back and they're proud of their skin and it is dramatically changed their whole life and their whole outlook. When you can repair that thing that they're embarrassed about, the scarring, I think it's tied into memories of having acne, memories of waking up with a pimple, and the stress that's involved with that. So it really is that to me has helped me a lot.
When I talk to most providers, for all of us, we tend to have a very personal story like that of someone that we've treated that you see that it just changes their confidence. And people want to think it's just facials or whatever, but like it really can change the way somebody feels about themselves. And we were getting some questions in the chat about what's in the serum, and I'll go back to the polyglucuronic acid. What makes that really special is not only is it improving transepidermal water loss so that you long term can get that correction of like building back the elasticity in the skin and the collet remodeling, right? That probably needs to happen when you have that ice pick scarring, but it has an immediate benefit too. And when you bind moisture to the skin really quickly and you do it in a more superficial area of the dermis, you do get a little bit of that plumping, and it makes them almost feel like they're wearing a primer on the inside. So those people that do have large pores and ice pick scars, they feel that smoothness that they're not used to. Because I'm sure you experience this too, as I work with a lot of acne patients that are like, I don't use any moisturizer because they're afraid that they're gonna break out or get really oily from it. And so the skin is typically very chronically dehydrated. But this properly oxygenated tissue, it responds better to anything else that we do to it, including them going in and putting makeup on back over it.
Absolutely. And then the second group that I think it's one wonderful for is that menopausal group that includes myself. And menopause, average American menopause is 52, and then 52 to 100. This is 50 years of our lives that we're in menopause. And obviously, the body does self-regulate, and we're not going to have hot flashes and dry skin and for 50 years. But when you're going through that, whether it be a year or two of active menopause or 10 years of figuring out this perimenopause, menopause, the skin does take a major hit. And the dryness, the loss of texture and lax and slack skin, the ExoFirm really gives the skin back that glow that they are, and they're suffering. The patients are suffering. I've suffered. My patients have suffered when they're going through menopause. And I think the Glo2Facial, especially with the ExoFirm, has really helped, add that hyaluronic acid back to their skin. That with the decrease of estrogen, your skin does get very dry. Everything gets dry. Your eyes get dry, your vagina gets dry.
Yeah.
And the increasing the hyaluronic acid through the ExoFirm really does help. And it's a wonderful gift to women going through menopause.
I love that you say that because I get asked a lot of times, what's the difference between firm and refine and some of the other customizations that we have in our portfolio? Because firm, smooth, and refine are all indicated for aging. And so how do you differentiate it? Well, there's different ways that we experience aging. And to your point, I think one of the biggest things most people experience, most women experience with their skin, especially through that pre, peri, postmenopausal time frame, it's the dryness, the just my skin cannot drink enough moisture. I can't get enough. And I'm aging. I'm not just dry, but I'm also seeing fine lines and wrinkles. And the way I differentiate this for customers is that Refine is really more for that muscular aging. It's more, think of it like it's going to work better in concert with Botox, right? Or a neuromodulator. It's going to help more with that type of age-related wrinkling. Whereas Smooth is going to help more with maybe that it works more like a retinol. It's a lot more aggressive, it's a little more of a punch, maybe a lot of melasma related to aging or sun damage. But Firm or now ExoFirm, it sits in that sweet spot of it's for the dehydration related aging and kind of that hormone related aging that is more of just that lack of resilience in the skin, youthful plumpness that we see, and what I like to call kind of that crepey or tissue paper skin that a lot of us start to notice, that laxity around where we have a lot of movement in the face. And I think that ExoFirm is the best choice for patients that are experiencing that kind of aging. It really addresses it at the root, which is that lack and that core of a good environment for the skin proteins. And so I think that's a really unique observation that you have for kind of that perimenopausal menopausal group. I've seen a lot of questions coming in about combination therapies and some treatment. You've talked a little bit about how you use this with Clear and Brilliant and other laser.
Yeah.
Do you use this at all with microneedling? And if so, how do you incorporate that with microneedling types of techniques?
We do. We do it a little bit more with Clear and Brilliant or the Tixel, but we do it with microneedling as well. And then we're just very, very cognizant of what we're going to infuse after making those little holes in the skin. But we do it. We use it to exfoliate the skin. We use it to start those exosomes. So yes, it is definitely for some the way my particular office is set up. The Glo2Facial is we have two Clear and Brilliants, and we have the Clear and Brilliant set up right next to it. And so we call it the Glo2 Brilliant. Um, and the way my patient's rotation is, they tend to come every 3 or 4 weeks, and I say, just give me 30 minutes. And they can decide, or I can decide what we do. They want Gigi to decide. And when they're on that Clear and Brilliant rotation, they tend to do the Glo2 Brilliant. And then when they're on the microneedle or Tixel, they tend maybe not to do the ExoFirm that day, but they can do it. It just really kind of depends on person to person. But typically, the Glo2Facial is paired with the Clear and Brilliant. But if you were to do it with the microneedling, you would do the first step with the ExoFirm, and then you would do the microneedling, and then do your extra exosomes. I actually would bring in a different, exosome, do the ultrasound, then put another layer of exosomes on, and then do a sheet mask plus the massage. And then send them home with exosomes. Because really, it's those little channels that were made with the microneedling that really is going to absorb the extra exosomes. So that one is kind of, oh, it's not required. They don't have to leave with the exosomes, but I encourage it.
Well, of course, that, like you said, we've signaled the skin. We might as well keep that conversation going even after we
Right.
leave your
Because you only
office.
have
And I think this
24
makes
hours
that.
until those little holes knit up. So I tend to kind of push that, especially on the night of that.
Yeah.
Um, And then I
We
give
got a lot
them,
of,
in terms of what they're picking, which pod they're picking. We have the little manual, and they can look at the pictures. But typically, they're like, and I'll show it to them. They're like, no, no, we want you to pick. We want you to pick. So, I love the ExoFirm, so I do tend to pick the ExoFirm. And perhaps if I am still, a lot of times you want to give patients hope, if they're coming in for acne, and they want to treat the acne, but they also want to get started. They want to get started on the scars like right then. So then one week maybe we do the smooth, or the clarify, and then the next week the ExoFirm. But even though the ExoFirm can be done on an active acne skin as well, typically maybe we'll rotate those two. We'll rotate between two, and if it's more maybe for maybe the menopausal skin will rotate, maybe one ExoFirm, maybe the next week hydrate. And you can do both. I mean, we've opened up two pods in a session. Is
yep.
oftentimes, they can't decide, so we said, look, we'll do both.
You take the right approach, and this is what I tell providers all the time is you're the expert. And Glo2Facial is really designed for the thinking provider. Think about the skin. There's no rule that says
There
you
are no
can't use
rules. There
two
are no
different
rules. You
customization.
you you make them happy, and you
Yes.
make yourself happy at the same time.
And you said something that I hear from all of our successful providers, which is your patients trust you. They just say, you tell me what to do. And so when we can get bolder with mixing and matching and playing, I think that's where we see the outcomes really stack also.
Yeah, and some of them want to know a little bit about the science, and some of them are like, I don't really care. Just let put the goggles on me, let me relax, and give them a hand massage. But then some of them are really want to deep dive, dive deep, and what are exosomes, and how does this work? So you can kind of play off the patient if they how much they want to be involved in the decision making.
It meets them where they're at. And, to your point about acne and things like that, I find that ExoFirm, if you're looking for a good go-to or you're like on the fence as a provider, what should I get? You have to have ExoFirm, and it is different than Firm. And I do think that it opens up a lot more variety and versatility in how you're treating, especially like you said, with
Oh,
some of these more
absolutely. I would load
category.
up on ExoFirm boxes. I would just have a lot of because I think that is going to be the major go-to. You'll have the other ones, but I I think the ExoFirm is definitely one to load up on now.
I feel like if people tend to be very hydrate and protect heavy because we want to do like what you're talking about. We know to start with anti-inflammatory and then work them in through other things, but I really feel like Exoferm needs to replace that in any practice or business that is more outcome and results driven. I think hydrate and protect are wonderful for like soothing and, great if you've got somebody that's been in the sun right before they come in. But if you're truly focused on outcome, you're trying to drive series results, you want to pair it with other things, I think ExoFirm has to become a go-to. Not only for, like you said, with anti-aging, going with laser and microneedling and things like that, but I don't know if people realize Cosmo just awarded us the holy grail for acne treatment with the Clarify customization. And so when you have maybe you start with ExoFirm to calm inflammation with active acne, then you move them into Clarify. You can do a lot in one or two treatments for somebody.
Definitely. Clarify and smooth, I alternate with the acne too. Those are
I
both
love
great.
smooth. Yeah, smooth is a good one. Yeah. But if for anyone that's on the fence, I think this is such a worth it to try one because it just should become your go-to as an entry point for anybody. And you also talked about you've got a difference in clients of some want to know, some don't want to know. So for the providers that are like, okay, how do I explain exosomes in an accessible way to my patient? What are some of your most successful talk tracks that get clients excited about an exosome?
They're just communicators. They just talking to the cells. They're just cell signalers, like traffic signs. They're just showing the cells what to do, where to go.
Yeah. And honestly, that's as simple as it is. And I think a lot of times we feel like we have to over justify it or overcomplicate it because maybe we're charging more for exosomes and things. But I think the next step is just, I always say that we are translators for our patients. And I'm like, you don't need to get all into, collagen synthesis and everything else. It's really about their signalers. But more than anything, what does that mean for you? It means you are going to look fantastic when you leave today. And when you go to take pictures for your kids' graduation, your skin's going to look radiant and resilient and feel much more confident. And that's ultimately what everybody wants, is they just want to feel like themselves in a really confident way. Um, as we get ready to wrap up here, and I'll invite the group, if you do have any other questions, please pop them in the chat and I will get ready to address them. But I would love to know from you, Dr. Gerstner, when you think about all of this goes back to regenerative aesthetics, using the body's own natural abilities to repair or heal or regenerate itself. Where do you see exosomes kind of fitting into the standard of provider care over the next few years? Is this trendy? Do you think it will dramatically improve? Where does exosome have a place in the story?
Exoferms are here to stay. I think it's going to be just like how retinol has been around and antioxidants have been around. Exosomes is here. It is trendy, but it's also going to be long lasting in skincare for a very long time.
It's just such a great bridge for anything that we're already doing to the skin, and I think that is what makes it stand out. So, Emma, I think I did a pretty good job in the chat, but are there any other questions that I didn't address? I see. Thank you for throwing some stuff in there for us. Are there any patients that aren't a candidate for exosomes, in your opinion, Dr. Gerstner?
No.
I don't think so either. It's just a home run for anybody. And some people are asking if the original firm will be available. It will not. It doesn't even need to be. ExoFirm is such an upgrade. It will be the new standard. And so once the firm is gone, it will be gone forever. And ExoFirm is the new standard. Just to your point, it's here to stay. It is such a change and shift in the industry. So we are doing that. But or we are shifting to that. And for those of you that might have more questions, yes, what did you want to
What,
add?
the only thing I when I show them the panel of the ingredients in the different serums and pods, I do like them to look at it to see if they have any unknown allergies to anything. I am again, and just maybe since it has the gold in it, you just say, do you have any metal allergies? I don't even
Yeah.
think that the 24 karat gold would cause anything, but that I do tend to show them the little panel and show them the ingredients in the pods and the serum just in case, because this day and time, you never know what kind of allergies a patient might have. But then again, I have never had any reaction with any of the pods, but I just like to empower them with if they do have sensitivities or allergies. And so that would be the only thing I would mention is that the 24 karat gold, if someone has a sensitivity to metals, but I don't even think that'd be a reason to avoid.
No, but like you said, it's good to empower them to make those decisions. You've got so many other customizations to choose from,
Right.
but exosomes are such a hallmark of the regenerative treatment space that we're seeing. And I can see a lot of you asking, and you're excited about the promo. So yes, we do have a promotion from you. Thank you, Dr. Gerstner. I know you were really excited about the product, and so in honor, we had to do a promo. So we are offering a buy two, get two free. If you buy 2 boxes of ExoFirm, you will get 2 boxes complimentary. We really want you guys to have an opportunity to try this and bring this to every patient that comes through your doors because it's just such a game changer. And I'm especially going to challenge every provider on here that is either seeing acne or rosacea patients, or you live in the world of hydrate and protect. It's time to be brave. It's time to elevate. It's time to bring some Dr. Gerstner pizzazz into your business, and you need to get into the exosome space. You've got to shift into some of these more elevated categories of offerings, and I think ExoFirm is the thing that will take the treatment to the next level for your patients that already love hydrate and protect. So write down this code. It is extra ExoFirm, and you can add this in when you go to checkout in the app or on the website. You are going to get $396 in complimentary product. You can maximize by doing this redemption 3 times total, but it's only for 24 hours. All right, you guys got one day. So get excited, make your purchases now. We've already got a pretty long wait list of things, so I would encourage you guys to claim quickly because once we're out of stock, we're out of stock. So 3 redemptions max, extra ExoFirm. We'll drop that in the chat for you guys as well. And we're happy to help you guys with getting your orders. But before we go today, I have to close with a final question and ask you, Dr. Gerstner, if there is just one thing that you could tell a provider about why ExoFirm belongs in their business, what would you tell them?
Just that it's a home run. It's a no-brainer.
It really is. It's the next era, it's the next wave. It still elevates on a treatment that everybody knows and loves. And like I said, it is your Instagram filter. If you want to leave looking and feeling like a celebrity from every single treatment, this is going to be your go-to and your Glo2 standard. Dr. Gerstner, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been a pleasure. I will stay on for just a couple minutes because I see some stuff coming in through the chat. But Dr. Gerstner, any final words that you want to leave to the team?
Just thank you for having me.
It was
And
a pleasure.
enjoy. Like I'm excited to hear feedback from other practitioners. So reach out to me on Instagram or call me or text me, whatever. I'd love to hear y'all's experience as well.
You do such a great job educating. We love seeing your Instagram. Give her follow if you're not already on there. But otherwise, we will see you guys on the next webinar. I will also invite those of you that enjoyed this today to join us in the Glo2Facial app. We have a dedicated course on ExoFirm where you can access all of our resources. You can see more webinars, more behind the scenes, and get all of the education content and resources that you're looking for. So see us over on the Glo2Facial app, and we'll see you on the next webinar. Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.